So this is the first in our 10-part mini-series that Lucy and I are doing around the habits of Ayurveda and yoga. So for those of you who don't know what Ayurveda is, it's the Indian life science, and it is one of the many wisdom traditions that have been around for a really long time. And some of the sort of underlying principles of Ayurveda, much the same with Chinese medicine, the five element theory, is really looking at how you relate to nature, to the cycles and the rhythms of nature. They suggest that if you are really in sync with nature's rhythms and cycles, you live a life of thrive and health and abundance. And if you are out of sync with nature's rhythms, then that's when dis-ease and sort of discomfort and just this sense that you're just not aligned, that things just aren't working, can kind of come in. And what I really love about these habits, the way that we sort of boiled them down, they've been boiled down into these really comprehensible habits, is that Ayurveda is such a big topic. You know, traditional Chinese medicine and five element theory is such a big topic. It's said, a teacher of mine said a couple of years back that to study everything that Ayurveda and yoga have would take 33 lifetimes. It's a really long time. So to be able to, without dumbing it down, without kind of bastardizing it, to be able to sort of condense down some of these teachings to something that's really comprehensible, that's really achievable, and that's really relatable to like our modern day, I think is a really good thing. So we're going to be sharing with you these 10 habits that both Lucy and I really pretty much live by. I mean, obviously we have, you know, ebbs and flows in that, but we really subscribe to what Ayurveda really teaches us. So for those of you that are a little bit familiar with Ayurveda, we have our doshas, and our doshas are our constitutions, and they're made of the different elements: water, fire, earth, air, and ether, which are different to the elements of traditional Chinese medicine. And we can get a little bit caught up in, you know, whether we're vata or pitta or kapha. And to be honest, really, if you don't have some of the foundational habits dialed in, it's kind of almost irrelevant like what dosha you are. Like if you're eating really late at night, your dinner, like at 9-10 p.m. at night, and you're not sleeping until midnight, and you're waking up at 10 a.m., sort that out first before you even start to like find herbs and, you know, look for particular practitioners who might help your digestive issues. Okay, it's really look at like, what are you doing every single day, and how can we start to adjust that before we start spending loads of money and loads of time and energy on things that actually probably won't work because you're sort of counteracting them by not having a really healthy lifestyle. So habit number 1 is earlier, lighter dinner. So having an earlier meal in the evening that's not really heavy. Growing up in the UK, where I'm from, we often as a family would eat dinner pretty late. My parents worked really long, really hard, and they were really hell-bent on us eating dinner together as a family. And that meant sacrificing essentially our health because we were eating so late in the day. So what Ayurveda talks about is that, in a nutshell, our digestive fire is at its peak between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. in the middle of the day. And that's when we should be having our biggest meal. So in order to have like an earlier, lighter dinner, we really need to have like an earlier, bigger lunch. So lunchtime generally needs to be like one of the bigger meals of the day, if not the biggest meal of the day, because that's when we have the highest capacity for digestion. So when we do that, then that tends to mean that we get obviously hungrier earlier, and we want to be having something that's lighter. So what we call dinner now, the last meal of the day, is actually what used to be supper. And dinner used to be at lunchtime. So I don't know if any of you recall this, perhaps with your parents or your grandparents calling lunch dinner. So my nanny, we used to go round to her house at lunchtime, but she would call it dinner. And dinner was the biggest meal, and then she would have soup in the evening. And now the root word of the word supper, which is the evening meal, is supplemental. So supper was only ever meant to be a supplemental meal. Because if you think about it, what have we got to do after supper? Not much. And the reason that we eat is to fuel our bodies. So if you're having dinner at supper time and it's late, and then all you're doing is sitting in front of the TV watching Netflix and then going to bed, your body's not assimilating the food. So if you've got issues with weight, if you've got digestive issues, and you eat a later, heavier dinner, this could really be like a huge reason why. Okay, so the reason that it changed, the reason why dinner became lunch and supper became dinner is actually to do with the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so people used to go off to work, so they weren't at home to have their big dinner, so then they would take sandwiches or sort of small kind of snacky foods, and they'd eat kind of on the hoof, and then they'd go home and they'd have their big meal with their family. But that doesn't serve our body, it doesn't serve our health, it doesn't serve our digestion. So there's another digestive sort of peak in our 24-hour period, and that is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. but it's not as strong as the one in the middle of the day, and it's not meant to be a real digestive fire. Okay, it's actually meant to be cleansing. So how our bodies generally work best is if we've had a big meal at lunchtime and our body's been able to digest, assimilate, and then we move and we use our body in the afternoon to kind of help with that digestive process. And then we have an earlier, lighter dinner, say around 5, or 6, latest 7. And then once we've had that earlier, lighter dinner, we stop. No more food, like no more desserts, no more nothing, kitchen closed. And then we're able to fast from, I eat at 5 p.m. That's my dinner time. I fast then from like 5:30, 6 p.m. until 7, 8, 9, sometimes even 10 a.m. And then what happens is that our secondary digestive fire from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. helps with actually a cleansing process in the body. So our body should be going through a cleanse, which is this intermittent fasting, right? Every single 24-hour period. And then think about the word breakfast. What does breakfast actually mean? What is it? It's breaking the fast. Okay, so breakfast, we should be breaking a fast of at least 12 hours, if not more. Okay, if you're not doing that, then this is where inflammation comes from, or one of the ways the inflammation comes in. So if you've got digestive issues, take a look at when you're eating what you're eating. And if there's no regularity to it at all, that will also have a huge impact in how you digest. Like, our body likes routine. It likes to know what's happening. It likes regularity. If you're waking up one morning having breakfast at 7 one morning, then at 10, then at 11, sometimes you have lunch, sometimes you don't, sometimes dinner's late, sometimes it's on the hoof, sometimes you skip it altogether. The body really, 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 really doesn't like this. Okay. If you're skipping lunch and having a massive dinner like late in the evening, and then you don't move your body afterwards, the body doesn't really like that either. So if you've got any digestive issues, take a look at the time of your meals and how you're eating what you're eating. Before you even look at what you're eating, look at when you're eating it and the regularity with what you're eating, with when you're eating it. And also, if you struggle to sleep, if you're having dinner too close before bedtime, that's going to massively disturb your sleep. We actually want to be going to bed kind of on like a slight feeling of hunger. Not this burning feeling that's going to keep you up all night, but we want to be a little bit hungry. We want to be empty to be able to sleep, because sleep is very etheric, it's very airy. Okay, we're not meant to fall into this like heavy comatic, like food-induced coma. Like that doesn't work for beautiful, deep, kind of etheric sleep. It works for chromatic, sluggy, yucky, like waking up feeling like shit sleep. So the other thing as well, just when it comes to food, is most people aren't comfortable with the feeling of hunger. And there's a lot in this whole idea of like being comfortable with hunger, like what does it mean energetically for us? But just leaning into that, and you someone that just can't actually sit with just the slight feeling of hunger, which is why you then like need to perhaps have a snack before bed, because you might be feeling just a little bit hungry. So just lean into that as well, because that can often have a huge bearing on why we snack late at night. Okay, anyway, so I'm going to leave it there. I could talk about that topic for a very, very long time, but I'm going to just leave it there. And Lucy will be here tomorrow talking about getting to bed early. So for those night owls, definitely tune in tomorrow to hear why we need to be in bed before 10. All right. If you've enjoyed this, let me know. Write a comment below, and I will see you in a couple of days.